Hi again, friends. I want to do a few different videos, but I'll try and combine some into this. I wanted to talk a little bit about food and drugs, and another friend wanted me to do one discussing more about my reunion with my birth parents, but I'll do that maybe tomorrow. So for today, I've had a few conversations with people in the last week or so, whereas it seems like I've given the impression, whereas I believe everything should be minimalism and that we shouldn't be taking anything for anything, and I don't want to give that impression. I think it's important for us to stop and become conscious of what we're putting in our body, what we're absorbing mentally, and what's going on around us spiritually as well, which is, I think, the hardest thing to perceive. But at the same token, I mean, what we eat, we should be able to be conscious of, and we should be thinking about a little bit what we ingest as far as drugs and things of that nature. We need to be conscious of that too. And then on top of that, I think what we're saying and what we're taking in and what we're hearing and what we're feeding our mind with the television and radio and these other things is also very important. So it's being conscious. So the conversation I had the other day with a friend, we were talking about dairy, and whereas at a certain point when I was out in Penticton, BC, and I decided to try vegetarian out, that it went okay and it was going fairly smoothly, and I decided to try the vegan thing and get rid of the dairy, and it went okay. And once I had made the decision that I was going to give up the dairy, all of a sudden about a week later my stomach started kind of rejecting the dairy. And I think what it was is it's the intent, right? Because when we become conscious of our intent to do something, then it seems almost like our body and things seem to line up to help us. If our intent is sincere and we want to do this for the right reasons and it's ready, then I think everything lines up to move us in that direction. That's my theory. The other thing was what we say, because we've had a system put in place for us, like 3 meals a day, you know, here's what a balanced breakfast looks like, etc., etc., etc. And we just take this without ever really critically thinking about it. And ultimately, I mean, that's our life. That we're unconscious of our activities. We're unconscious of how our body works. We're unconscious of almost everything. So when people say I'm woke or I'm awakened or I'm enlightened or these sort of things, um, it's becoming more and more aware of what we're doing to ourselves, what others are doing, what's happening around us, etc., or within us. So, the conversation the other day turned into a bit of a disagreement and got a little bit hostile because the person we were talking about the dairy, and they were saying, "Oh, I'll never give up my dairy." I said, "That's wrong think," and they took it to mean that I was commenting on their continuance to ingest dairy, which isn't what I was saying. The wrong think is saying I will never give up something, or I will never. It's this mentality. I had someone at an Al-Anon meeting once when I had mentioned I was trying to give up the caffeine, and they said, "Oh, I'll never do that. Oh, I need my caffeine. I need." Well, that's just complete falsehood, right? And that's your choice if you want to continue to ingest that, if you've made plans to ingest that till you die, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you go into a 12-step program and you've managed to say give up alcohol because it wasn't good for you, and it had led you to a place of a rock bottom or a situation that wasn't good, well, you use a program which there's a lot of work involved and pain and agony to get yourself oriented into those 12 steps to give up that booze, and you consider it to be a miracle. Well, in the step 11, it's basically saying, well, what else does my higher power want for me? Um, and I'm pretty sure your higher power wants you to be healthy, you know, unless your higher power is maybe not working in your best interest. But I would think that physical health would be part of that. So all that being said, at the very least, when you're conversing, don't say things like "I would never give up something," which may or may not have any health benefits to you. You know, you might like sugar, but it's not good for you. And if you eat it in large quantities, it can cause diabetes and all sorts of health concerns. So when I had said that's wrong, think when we say something, we're setting our boundaries, we're setting our we're setting our intent. And if we're setting our intent improperly, well, we're just setting ourselves up for future failures. Um, and and we do it all the time. So, for example, like I had a friend that, yeah, I think it was an hour, and the old saying is, "I'm starving." No, you're not starving, and chances are you don't know what starving even feels like, um, by a long shot, because in Western society, it's very rare, you know, um, that people actually are in a situation where they may starve. Very rare. But at the same token, people go without for sure in comparison to other people. A lot of people aren't eating 3 meals a day. Sure, a lot of people. Here's the thing: you can get by easily with 1 meal a day, but if you believe that you need 3 meals a day, if you believe that you need something that you're not getting, well, that belief will cause problems with your physical self, because our beliefs have an impact, and they have a physical consequence in our lives. And that's what the waking up, the spiritual program is about, in the sense that you have to see that your intent and your beliefs and your inner self creates your outer. But at the same time, there seems to be a group of others that seem to try and get in the way of that, and to mislead you into some wrong beliefs and some wrong habits, etc., etc. I.e., when we get into pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, profitability, indentured servitude, all these sorts of things. So when I'm talking about things, and I mean, say you're taking, methadone, or say you're still smoking cigarettes, or, whatever it may be, it's hard to break a habit. And at no point am I saying you got to give up all these things. No. But at the same token, we should be able to sit back and take a look at ourselves and say, okay, well, I'm still, let's see, what am I still? I'm still consuming caffeine, and eventually I'd like to give that up. What's involved in giving that up? Well, it's 3 weeks of headaches for sure. Um, and I'm gonna have to mentally prepare for that. And I did try a couple years ago giving up the caffeine, but there was a lot of stress going on. I was getting frustrated with other people, and I decided at that point, you know what? I've got enough on my plate. We're going to leave caffeine for another time. Um, and that's it. That's it. And yes, down the road here, I'm going to look at caffeine and we're going to take care of it. But at this juncture, no. I'm going to enjoy my caffeine. And, if I get a little stressed out, I need a coffee, whatever it may be. Da, 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 da. So I'm not judging anybody. Changing your life, changing your habits is a hard thing. Um, but the point that there being is that, take an hour of your life and, consider these things. Take an hour out of your TV time because television is something that could be very beneficial to us. Like, I mean, I don't understand why, every lecture for the schools are not uh, broadcast. We should just have a huge library of classes that anybody can take, and education should be absolutely free. Get rid of this democratic libtard, clown circus they've got going on, teaching people that there's 93 different genders, etc., etc., etc. But anyways, I digress. So as far as the food goes, one thing at a time. Take a look at your entire diet, take a look at your entire ingestion, and just pick away a few things that you could get rid of. So, I mean, say for example, you drink, 3 or 4 pops a day. All right. Well, how about switching those over to, a sparkling water with some juice in it or something like that? That's maybe just a little bit healthier, a little bit less syrup, corn syrup in it, things like that. And then moving in that direction. We can hammer out little things and get rid of these things out of our life, and in a way that we don't have to miss them. But I mean, don't be like me. Don't wait until you're sitting in a bathtub contemplating suicide because the booze isn't working for you and you've come to the end of your rope. Or don't wait until you are 300 pounds overweight and you got diabetes and you have to change your diet or die. That's a lot of pressure. Um, Stop. Think. What can I do to better my life a little bit today? And anyways, I mean, just work at it. And if anyone ever wants to talk to me about my experiences, please do, because there's little things, there's little tricks to this that should be much more well known, that seem to be hidden away from us, and we're given some horrible false beliefs to work with, from this society that seems to be hell-bent on just stimulating the economy and yeah, corruption, etc., blah blah blah. So anyway, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm Mr. Puritanical or anything like that. I mean, that's a long road. I mean, ultimately, I think it's good to have an ideal in mind, like some Buddhist monk sitting under a tree that can survive off sunlight and a clover here or there. I mean, that's amazing, and that seems like a superpower, and yet that's something that's achievable. Okay, you go to the movie theater and you want to be able to, um, be the Flash or Spider-Man or Superman or these things. Well, okay, that's make believe. But Bruce Lee, that was a real person. And that's totally achievable. That's a doable goal, one step at a time. And knowing that these are human beings like you that have achieved superhuman ability. And that's available to you. But first you have to start by believing that you are of the same material as these other, as Bruce Lee and these monks and ascended masters, etc. And to open yourself up. I through my journeys, I heard it said that everyone's a genius. And in a certain way, I sort of believe that. But it takes getting in touch with your feelings, and it takes, um, some mental training as well, I think, and, a lot of other things. But the same token, you who are listening to this right now are capable of incredible feats, that, given just a little bit of time and, encouragement, with some small changes to your activities, behaviors, ingestion, you'd be amazed at the results. And, I guess the only thing is that it's big. It's big to make changes to ourselves. It's a big thing, because the world that you've landed in hopefully isn't, you know as bad as maybe mine was, where people want to keep each other down. Um, but I mean, if you have a few, solid supports in your life that want to encourage you to reach for more and reach for better things, I mean, by all means. But please, don't think you need to go spend tons of money, at the gym, or on a fad diet, or, whatever get rich quick scheme is going on today. Um, Everything's available online. You won't necessarily get a, diploma. I mean, I certainly wish there was a diploma for what I've gone through, but, I guess it's just a sense of well-being, and a sense that everything's okay, um, or that everything will be okay. So I mean, there is some good things that go with that, and, everyone's fallible. Everyone's, I drank last week, and again, I'll say it, like, I don't feel like it was falling off the wagon. I made a conscious decision. I'd put 49 months into sobriety, and I'd made sobriety into too big of a deal, and, it's not. You know what? Anyone can do it, and, if you do need to get in touch with your higher power for some help to make some of these changes, then that's doable too. The 12 steps is an easy, practical way to do that. But there's lots of religions, and, you yourself can find your own. And, yeah, if anybody wants help in understanding how to make conscious contact with, the spiritual, for themselves, and to work in that direction, please feel free to leave me a message. And as I mentioned, tomorrow I think I'll do a video on, just more my feelings on the birth family and that sort of thing. And, I'm changing as I'm doing these videos as well, so my opinions are changing. My ideologies are changing, and, I look forward to, hearing from you guys. That's really what, makes this worthwhile for me. And, please never think that, I don't have time for you, and if I don't get back to you right away, please forgive me. I'm out for a couple days or whatever it is, but, at the same time, I'll try to get to everyone. I prefer to chat in person versus, emails and texting. So if you can find a way to leave, some sort of contact for me, maybe I'll work on that a little bit more to find something a little bit more central so I can talk to you folks. But anyways, it's always a pleasure, and, I hope you guys have a beautiful evening. But, please leave in the comments. Oh, and like, share, subscribe. Feel free. And, leave in the comments what you would like to know about my reunion with my birth families. And, if there's any specific questions, I'll try and cover those. And otherwise, I'll just ramble on like I enjoy doing. But, again, uh, I'm not judging anyone out there. I judge on the macrocosm the system that's in place poisoning you folks, and I don't care for that, um, especially when it's done in such a devious sort of way. But I'm open to ideas that maybe the nation needed cigarettes to keep together somehow. Maybe they needed to poison us and profit hugely from that in some way to keep Canada going. I don't know. Anyways, nice chatting with you guys. Have a great night. And again, I love hearing from you guys. I love you all. So have yourselves a beautiful evening, and we'll talk soon.